And we are back. Good morning, 7:07 a.m. here on KFYO Mornings. And as promised, we have Chief Greg Stevens, Chief of Police of Lubbock. Wow, how do we say that? Lubbock Chief of Police. Good morning.
Good morning.
Chief.
It's good
How
to
are
be
you?
here.
We've got several things to talk about, but we've also got a texter that says, could the chief offer a PSA reminding people that turning lanes are not merging lanes? That's
Here
from
it is.
Chris.
Here it is. Turning lanes are not merging lanes, and I, it's a problem. And whoever that text is from, first let me say how much I appreciate the fact that you know that, because too many drivers don't know that. But a larger problem, people know that, but they do it anyway, and it's something that I see a lot. And so, and we've talked about it on the last time I was here. And so I've just, since we've been here, I sent myself a note. I'll have our traffic units kind of do some focused enforcement on that, because it's an issue and causes wrecks every now and then. And we even see times where people, now they think they're in the right, and so they honk at drivers that don't let them in. And and so the turning lane is only for making left turns. It's not for merging into traffic, and it's dangerous to do that. So we'll step up.
Yeah, and the most dangerous part is when you start taking off to try to merge because there's the traffic there. You're driving down that lane, and other people have to use that lane to turn the other direction.
Yeah, exactly. And you're gonna and where that can become a problem is that driver's now looking back over their shoulder to find a place to merge, and they're going to miss a car sitting in the lane waiting to turn the other way left. We've seen wrecks like that. So yeah.
Now, Chris, look at there. Look what you've done. You've got the chief that's going to make some changes there for you, and there'll probably be a lot of tickets issued.
Well, I'll tell you what
needs to be.
Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say is, though, you at KFYO, you get a heads up. If you do that, stop. It's against the law.
It is. Stop doing that.
Another texter says the public also needs to be reminded that they're not supposed to cross a solid white line on the highway or the roadway.
That's true.
Solid white line.
It's that tells you that either you're coming up to railroad tracks on an intersection somewhere where it is more dangerous to either change lanes or any number of issues right there, and then double white lines. And Lubbock is a little bit unique where I'll tell you another issue that if someone may be thinking of texting this in, I'll go ahead and address this issue that we see here a lot, is when you're exiting the freeway, we get conflicts with the cars that are already down on the access road. What state law says is that cars on the frontage road, on the access road, are required to yield to the traffic that is exiting the freeway. And that affords the folks exiting the freeway full use of the access road, so they can turn into businesses, get up to the light, and they can make a right-hand turn. So legally, the car exiting the freeway is allowed to go all the way into the right lane. They can avail themselves of all the lanes because all of the cars on the access road are supposed to yield to them. And in a lot of cities, you see where they actually erect yield signs on the access road. In a good spot in Lubbock where you can see that is over where Best Buy used to be. You can see when you come around that corner, there's two yield signs, and there's a couple of other places. And I wish.
Well, that's a dangerous place.
I know, and I wish that TxDOT would put more of those up, because that really follows the state law. But what we have in most every exit scenario are the double white lines, and it says do not cross the double white lines, which works pretty well. It solves some of the conflict, but you still have drivers that say exit at the Quaker exit on the South Loop, and they want to go to one of the restaurants, or they want to go to Steinmart or whatever. And legally, they're supposed to be able to do that. It's the purpose of a limited access freeway, but they can't, because none of the cars on the access road are letting them merge all the way over, and so it creates a bit of a conflict. But I can tell you, if you have a traffic crash, the right-of-way is going to go to the car exiting the freeway, because state law says, plain and simple in black and white, that the cars on the frontage road must yield the right-of-way to the vehicles exiting the freeway.
But that being said, defensive driving is always the best policy.
Because in Lubbock, the right of way is something you give, not take.
Yeah.
And so me saying that, don't just shoot off the freeway and go, man, I got this. Look back and make sure that people are going to give you the right of way before you just fly over there and jump into the Chewy's parking lot.
Honestly, the good thing about Lubbock is you can actually see the traffic as you're coming down. I mean, it's not like you've got those walls up and you can't see where the merge is coming or anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can actually see the traffic. You can get in there. And I think you can find a hole if you're
some
trying.
of that is from our beautiful landscape, our beautiful terrain, where when I travel, people ask me, well, where are you from? And I tell them, I say, I come from a place where you can watch your dog run away for 2 solid weeks. and so, it's that we have good terrain for good visibility.
Didn't we not just do a national survey that said Lubbock was the easiest town to get around in the nation?
There you go. Shortest commute time.
Shortest commute time, yeah.
I made it up here in 13 seconds flat.
Mm-hmm. It's the easiest town to get around in. I mean, everything is north, south, east, and west.
Yeah.
It's laid out in blocks like that, and in very few places, where they couldn't do that. But still, it is easy to get around in. And I tell people, a traffic jam in Lubbock is when you have to sit through a light once.
Well,
exactly.
Or I mean, there's always wrecks that can back up traffic. But
well, and that's a good point. You bring that up. So managing wrecks is a big challenge for us because we know that they snarl traffic. And talking with our regional DPS director Gary Albus, who's over the Northwest region, all of this vast area, Amarillo to Abilene, Wichita Falls, of course, all over the South Plains, something that they're beginning to follow is what's called TIMS. And I'll get this acronym wrong. The Transportation Institute Management System. I think that's what the I stands for, and it's a method of managing traffic incidents, whether it's a chemical spill on the freeway, whether it's construction, but whatever it is. Certainly wrecks is what we would deal with, but working towards, and our guys already do a really good job. Our focus is to get there, deal with injuries, get traffic blocked so that we don't have more wrecks, but then get traffic cleared. We have a protocol we try to follow, but we want to step that game up because, even if we're able to clear a wreck 5 minutes faster, that's 5 minutes where you have less likelihood of another crash, 5 minutes getting people where they're going faster. So even an incremental reduction in that time is a gain. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to soon adopt that TIMS protocol along with DPS and other cities to try to make statewide a better solution and a quicker response and mitigation of whatever could happen, whether it's debris in the road, a damaged road, a crash, whatever it is, but follow a statewide, really a nationwide way of dealing with traffic accidents and things like that.
So let's take a break and we'll be back in a moment and talk more with the chief. And we are back here at 7:21 a.m. on KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin, and we're talking with Lubbock Police Chief Greg Stevens. And one thing I wanted to bring, I think we may have talked about this the last time you were here, but one of the things is car chases. We have it seems like a lot of car chases in Lubbock. We had one this week. Monday?
Yeah, but that
Monday?
was. I don't think it was Lubbock Police though on that one, but I think it was.
Well, I think it was.
DPS.
It was reported that it was a chase in they called it Midtown. So I don't know exactly where Midtown Lubbock is, but the speeds that exceeded 100 miles an hour.
I'd have to. I'm working off of looking through summaries, and I think that may have been another agency, either the sheriff's office or DPS. I can't remember, but we probably assisted. Yeah. If it goes through the city, we're often going to assist, and whether we participate in it or try to set spikes out or something like that.
Well, but still. What is your policy about police chases?
So it's based on needs versus risk assessment, and those are delineated out in policy very, very clearly, and it really boils down to this: the need to immediately capture the suspect has to outweigh any prevailing risk to the public from the suspect's actions. And then we have some prohibitions. If the suspect can be identified and more easily or more safely arrested at a later time, then we'll cancel that pursuit. And so what most people don't know, we cancel as many or more pursuits than we actually engage in. And often the officer will chase for a short distance. Once they've got the tag number, then they break that chase off. The officer can make that decision, or a supervisor will make that decision as well.
I know there's been a couple of citizens' deaths here in the last few years that I can remember on police chases, and that concerns me. I know that there's a lot of municipalities who just won't chase. Well,
there's a few that absolutely won't, which I don't agree with that kind of policy, because there's times where there's bad people in this world, and they have to be captured.
But isn't it true that for the most part, this is maybe some guy that's got a warrant out for his arrest for maybe traffic tickets, and as we know, Chief, through experience, a lot of these kind of guys are not the brightest bulb on the tree, and
they're not capable of driving that fast.
That's
it's
right.
Dangerous, and that's
they're
where
not
goes
a NASCAR
exactly.
driver.
That's where it goes to that needs versus risk, and the officer is going to take that and look at that and say, well, so what is the crime that's been committed? And if it's merely traffic warrants, or they don't even know that, if it's just that they've run a stop sign. And then they look at the risk side of that, and it's 5 o'clock traffic. They're going, 90 miles an hour. Clearly, the risk outweighs the need, and therefore the pursuit is prohibited, and we're going to break that off. Take that in contrast with a kidnapping suspect, a murder, anything like that, and it's
or even someone who's waved a gun around and you don't know what he's going to do with
something like that, and there's more of a need to protect the public at large, and it's 2 in the morning, and there's not any traffic out, and there's no one blanket policy that can answer the question all the way around. Each situation has to be judged on its own merit, and we expect our folks who are well trained, who we have an awesome, extensive hiring process for. They're going to have to make that decision, and it's reviewed by a supervisor as it's ongoing, and then later on we review it, and again. We take a very statistical approach as we look at it, and as many or more car chases we cancel, and then so you got about half of them that we engage in, and far more of those the suspect ends up stopping, bailing out of the car, and running. Only a small percentage ends in some kind of a crash, and even a smaller percentage ends in an injury. And as you pointed out, we had a death. I want to tell you it was in 2016, around that time frame, and before that it was about 10 years or so, maybe more, where there was a death. It was one up on the freeway as a car was exiting. And we'd actually broken that chase off, but the suspect continued on driving the way that they were.
Yeah. Well, and that's what you run
into. I'm a chase them all kind of guy, so I don't want anybody to get away.
This is a hard line kind of guy here. Well, we have a texture that says, I have a complaint.
Okay.
If you're involved in a traffic accident and no one is injured and the vehicles can be driven away, the police do not show up. They do not determine who is at fault, and no accident report is filed. The individual has nothing to hack him or her up when dealing with the insurance companies. I don't know exactly what hack means, what they're referring to, but I guess he's saying that you don't have any paperwork to present to the insurance company.
Yeah, when we were talking about that exact thing during the break.
It's really goes to allocating the scarce resources that we've got. And the fact is, in Lubbock, we need closer to or more probably than 500 officers, and we've got a budget for 453, and we have vacancies at any given time. Fill those up with an academy class and have some retirements, and so it's kind of a moving number. And so we've got to decide, well, we would love to go to every single traffic crash and be there in 2 minutes, and it's simply not possible to do that. So we do have to prioritize things, and here's the thing: if people absolutely insist that we come out, we can, but we try to tell people it may be a while. You're going to have to move the cars out of the road, and so traffic can keep going, but it could be as much as an hour or more, maybe 2 hours before we finally get a car to you. If we have someone available, we can probably send them right away. But you can go. There's two types of reports: the one that we make and the one that an individual makes on our website. You can go on and self-report.
Oh, we got to go. We'll take this. We've got to hit a break here. We're up against a hard break, so we'll take the break and then come back and talk more with Chief. And we're back here at 7:35 a.m. with Dave King and Matt Martin in the morning on KFYO, and again talking to Lubbock Police Chief Greg Stevens. A lot of interest this morning, Chief. Texters are texting in.
But well, I just wanted you to go ahead and finish kind of doing a report online. You're talking about doing a report online, if a personal report online. If you're in an accident and you don't want to wait for the police and there's no injuries or anything. Or if the police, it's going to take a while for them to get there, you can do a personal report online.
Exactly. You can go to our website, get that report, and fill that out yourself. So at the scene, the law requires that the two of you exchange certain information, and it's pretty basic. Your name, phone number, your insurance information, car registration. What we encourage people to do is take pictures of the other person's driver's license, their license plate, and the damage and how the cars are.
Take really good pictures.
Exactly. Take a couple of snapshots, and that way you've got that to back it up with your insurance company. And you know what it sort of boils down to is between the two insurance companies settling that. And what often happens is each insurance company goes their own way, fixes their own cars, but that's not something that the police have as much to do with. And everyone always says, no, I want a police report so that y'all can say who's at fault. And years before, we would put an X by the car that we felt was more at fault or did whatever, and we don't do that anymore. The instructions for the state accident report are very clear. We simply assign a numerical code that show factors that did contribute to the accident and factors that may or may not have contributed to the accident. And you know, quite often, say in a rear-end collision, it's the most common factor is a 22, which is fail to control speed. And so, you know, one car is going to have that. It makes it pretty clear. An insurance company can see that. But if someone's rear-ended you in traffic, there's really not going to be an argument over that, and it's a minor damage thing. Your insurance company and their insurance company, there's no way around that. And so same kind of thing. A very complex accident, we're still going to put factors that may apply to both vehicles. And so, again, the insurance companies are going to have to figure that out as well. So there's not as much different as people think as to whether or not we do a report or you do the report online. So where we're going to if there's injuries, we're going to come out. If the cars are not drivable and are blocking traffic, we're going to come out. If there's a hazmat spill, we're going to come out. All these different things. There's sort of a checklist that the dispatcher follows, and most accidents, we still are going to go out. But a very minor accident, both cars are drivable. The overriding thing is we need to get the street cleared. We need to get cars out of the way so we're not holding up traffic or risking another accident. So that's our biggest goal. And if the people want to sit on the parking lot and wait for us until we get an officer free, it's going to be a lower priority call simply because we have to use the other officers for what might be either more serious accidents, more violent crime calls, things like that. And so. But we will eventually come out to that call if you're waiting on the parking lot for us.
It kind of leads right into another question I had, and that was about DWIs. Some clarity on DWIs. Of course, the rule is don't drink and drive.
Absolutely.
Okay. But you're legally drunk at .08.
Yes, sir.
Is that still the rule? So if you're maybe If you don't drink and drive, it prevents you from on the way home stopping and having a beer with a buddy. But
yeah, and you don't have to worry about what your BAC is if you don't drink and drive all.
That's right. But if you do stop and have a beer with your buddies, supposedly you're going to be less than .08.
Theoretically, that's true. Now, what people have to understand is that the .08 that merely gives prima facie evidence that you're too drunk to drive. That's just simply takes the burden away from having to prove you're drunk or too drunk to drive, too inebriated to drive. So what the law says, there is what the elements of the offense are, is that you're driving a vehicle in a public place and that you don't have full control of your mental and physical facilities. And so a very lightweight person who doesn't drink very often at all, who may become intoxicated at a lower BAC, right, may still be guilty of driving while intoxicated.
Well, it affects everybody.
It does.
Alcohol affects everybody differently.
And so the law is simply that, is you're driving a car in a public place and you are not in control, you're too intoxicated, whatever the level. Now, if you happen to be at 0.08 or higher, well, it takes away the need to prove the level. You just are under the law.
But if you blow less than a 0.08, you're not considered.
Not necessarily, and that's what I'm saying. Is in other words, if someone is driving a car, they fail the sobriety test, they do very poorly on them, and because of how they were driving, they were all over the road, they had a wreck or whatever, but they blew a 0.072 whatever, they may still very well be convicted of DWI just because alcohol affects them much more severely. And so we always caution people that, don't worry about what your BAC is. You just shouldn't drink and drive at all. Now,
if you can feel it, don't jump in a car.
That's exactly right. That's a great advice right there. Of course, the advice we stand by is don't drink and drive at all. But certainly, if you've had a glass of wine at dinner and you can feel it at all, you should not drive. You should not drive. Period.
Yeah. What's the rule with the police? Are they going to ask you to blow?
Well, typically, if we smell alcohol and for whatever reason we've stopped you,
then you're speeding.
Yeah, and we smell alcohol and there's any other indicative factors, the way you're talking or things like that, we're probably going to have you step out and do sobriety tests. Now, if you pass those, typically we're going to ask if there's someone else can drive, and the scary thing is in so many instances the passengers had nothing to drink, and I don't know why that person wasn't driving to begin with, but we're going to look for an alternative. If you fail the sobriety test, what's called field sobriety test, then we're going to arrest you, take you down, and request consent for blood or for breath.
Okay. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and close out with Chief Stevens right after this.
This is News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. We are broadcasting from the Thacker Jewelry Studios. View the custom collection at 6120 82nd Street in Lubbock. I'm Matt Martin. I'm sitting here with Chief Greg Stevens, Chief of Police Lubbock. So, in the break we talked a little bit about insurance and uninsured motorists, and you were saying that we don't have as much of a problem with that, and I thought it was very interesting. So, if you want to kind of talk about just why we're having less of that.
Well, there's a couple of reasons. Used to, whenever I was a young officer, you just kind of had to go with what insurance card that the driver would show, and and there were fake insurance cards, or people they'd go pay insurance and have it for a month, and then would quit paying it, and so. But you were really left with what if they gave you a valid insurance card, well. Then you had to trust that. But if they didn't really have it when they got in a wreck, of course there was no insurance to pay for the other driver's car, and that person was stuck, having to deal with it themselves because there was no insurance. Mm-hmm. So, but nowadays there's a couple reasons. One, we do insurance impounds, and so whenever we stop someone that doesn't have insurance, we impound the car most often, and so. That prevents them from driving in the future, but it's also a big incentive for people to actually have insurance so that we don't actually take the car. Mm-hmm. And how we have a much better knowledge of whether there is actually insurance is there's a database, and so a statewide database. And so when the officer calls out on traffic and tells the dispatcher, here's the location, here's the tag number, before the officer is out of the car or even off of the motorcycle, immediately. As the dispatcher types that in, it's running the plate to see if the car is stolen or if there's any warrants or whatever, anything wrong with it. But it also runs the plate for insurance. And so, again, before the officer has even approached the car, the dispatcher will immediately answer back that, hey, insurance is confirmed or insurance is not confirmed. And so the officer knows there is insurance or there's not. And that database is updated not quite instantaneously, but often enough to know that it is valid, and so there is either insurance or there's not. So we don't have to just trust a paper card that someone hands us. We can write that ticket and impound that car if we need to. So it's a much better system.
Okay. So you were talking about the a little at the beginning. You were talking about the new police substations. How are those going to be run? I mean, who's going to run the each substation?
So the rank of deputy chief is just come online, and it's equal with captains, right? So we've got 8 captains in the department that previously there were 3 of those in patrol that ran each of the shifts, but they really were only responsible for a time of day rather than anything geographical, right? And then we had the captain at the academy, captain over detectives, captain at special operations, and so it's a key rank. It's very important. When we have a substation, it's a geographical delineation and the basis of community-oriented policing. And what we're moving to is a very decentralized command. And rather than police a city of over 250,000 people from one police station with a kind of an antiquated hierarchical structure, we are decentralizing out into basically 3 police departments, each policing a population of about 86,000 people. So we needed to create a rank called a chief that will manage each of those substations. And so we've taken that rank of captain and converted that to some are deputy chiefs and some are captains. Still same pay, still the same level, but we now select 3 of those that are kind of the not necessarily more senior, but the most experienced, well-rounded, and ones that we are going to entrust and empower to go out and manage 1/3 of the city, and they need to carry the title of chief. So now they are deputy chiefs. We've already identified 3 of them, and they'll each be in charge of a substation that will have a third of the patrol division. They'll have a few detectives under them. They'll have their own budget, their own set of resources, and they'll be empowered to run that whole third of the city on behalf of the Lubbock Police Department. So it's a very big job. Now we'll have the other 5 captains. That one will have one in administration. It's where the newer captains will go to begin to learn more about law enforcement as an overall perspective. We'll have the academy captain, detective captain. So we've kind of redone the rank structure, if you will, to accommodate for big city policing, if you will, from a precinct or a substation perspective.
Yeah, is that going to alleviate some of the things that you do and I guess get that to other people?
It will because there's no way to manage and police a city this size from just one office. It just can't be done. And so, and then part of that is trusting your folks and being able to empower folks. And the definition of empowerment, you see that all the time. Empowerment's a buzzword. It's on posters hung around offices. But if you ever ask, you got to ask, what does that mean? What do you mean by you empower your people? And you got to do more than just use buzzwords. The definition of empowerment is making accountability and authority equal things. You can't give people authority yet not hold them responsible. Worse, you can't hold them responsible when they don't have full authority. And so these 3 individuals, it's a big deal. They understand that they're going into this with the same level of accountability and authority that I have and that the assistant chiefs have. A deputy chief carries that as well, and captains do as well. But where the captain at the academy has about 10 people working there, a deputy chief is going to have as many as 80 to 100 people working for him.
You gotcha. All right, well, we're going to take one quick little break, and we'll have one short segment coming back.
All right.
And we'll do that right now. Okay, Connor, we'll be right back after some messages. This is News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM KFYO. We're going to finish this last segment with Chief Stevens. Got Chief Stevens in here with me. Chief, you were talking a little bit about the substations. How's that going right now?
It's going well. It's on track. Progress is going really well. So the last significant event at this last council meeting, the contract was approved with the construction manager at risk for the substations. And a lot of people have asked, they said, so we're going to build those and then we're going to do the headquarters. And that's not necessarily the case. Those are 2 different projects being managed completely separately. So, and then along with a third project is the property room or evidence warehouse and So while we're doing the substations, again, we've chosen architects. We're nearly done with the design phase, and now we've got a construction company, Lee Lewis Construction, that will head that project up. They'll start the process of coming up with a maximum price that it will be. And in that project, we've chosen the east location at East 19th and MLK, the south location at 146th and Indiana, land donated by Thomas Payne. East one was on city land, and we're almost settled on a location for the north substation. So that's where that project is. We hope to begin full construction in the summertime. And then the separate project that's on its own timeline is the downtown headquarters. The significant progress there. We meet here in a week or two, with the design team, with the architects that have been chosen for that design that building. We moved locations. We did a land swap. That will be located at 15th and Avenue K, 2 blocks south of Citizens Tower. Great location. Really couldn't ask for it to be in a better location. Really going to be a nice place there. So as soon as the design is underway, we'll start looking towards the construction manager at risk program or a process for that, and it'll be built on a separate timeline. All together should be done in about 3 years with all of them.
Yeah. All right. Well, Chief, thank you for coming out.
Always good to be here.
It's been great. I think we've got something set up for you to come out next month, and so we'll see you again then. But again, thank you for coming out. Always great information.
Glad to be here.